So in this video, we are going to look at one of the measures of spatial concentration. So the first one we are going to discuss will be the index of dissimilarity. Okay, so what this index does is it measures the evenness or unevenness in the distribution of two mutually exclusive groups across a particular geographic area. So when we talk about two mutually exclusive groups, it means that one group is the opposite of the other. Okay. So an example would be natives of a particular community, and the opposite of that would be non-natives. So we are trying to look at the evenness amongst these two groups across the entire geographical area. We want to find out whether there is evenness in the number of natives and non-natives in one particular geographical area. Okay, same for the other examples we have here. So when we look at blacks and whites, we are trying to look at whether for KNUST the distribution of Ashantis, no, the distribution of blacks and the distribution of whites are equal. Okay, on KNUST campus. So what that is what the index of dissimilarity measure. Okay. So it is typically used to measure the spatial segregation of people across a spatial unit. Okay, so this spatial unit could be a community, a town, a city, or a metropolis. Okay, on the basis of ethnicity or social class or any particular characteristic. Okay, so going back to the example, the religion will be for the Christian and non-Christians, right? And this index is applicable when the area in question can be divided into sub-areas and relevant data on the two mutually exclusive groups are available for each sub-area. So if we are taking KNUST as a whole, this index can be applicable if KNUST as a whole can be divided into sub areas. So these sub areas could be the various colleges we have or the various departments. And under each of the departments, there should be two mutually exclusive groups we can have enough data on. So going back to the blacks and whites, maybe if you are using the colleges as our sub areas, at each of the colleges is the distribution of blacks and whites the same across all colleges in KNUST. So that's what the index of dissimilarity does. Okay. And the formula to calculate that is what we can clearly see here. Okay. As usual, this symbol is summation, and we are summing from 1 to capital N, whereby our capital N will be the total population or the entire population. Okay. So the AI measured here is the population of the first group of sub-area I. So if we take the subgroups, which is the colleges, okay, and College of Science or College I, what is the population of blacks in that particular area? Okay, and when we take the entire K University as a whole, what is the population of blacks in um the whole of K University? So that will be for the capital A. The small AI is for each of the subgroups, and the capital A is for the entire community or the entire area. Okay, the BI will be the other subgroup. So we said that we are trying to measure the similarity for two mutual groups. Okay, so here our A will be the blacks and the B will be the whites. Okay, so this BI here is also the population of whites in one particular college, and the capital B will be the population of whites in the entire geographical area, which is clearness. Okay, and at the end, the D we are supposed to get here should be between 0 and 1. Okay, so what does D mean when it is close to 0? Okay, and what does it mean if it's close to 1? And what about what is if it's exactly 0 or exactly 1? Okay, so the index represents the proportion of a group that would have to be relocated in order to achieve an even distribution of two groups. Okay, so let's say if we are taking KNUST as a whole, it's one of their missions that they would like to have the same population of blacks and whites on campus. Okay, the index of similarity will tell us whether there is evenness amongst these two groups, which is blacks and whites. That value we are supposed to get will tell us the number or the percentage of blacks we need to relocate to a particular or a different college to achieve evenness in the entire university. Again, we understand that the value be between 0 and 1, right? So the percentage or the number we are going to get, be it 0.1, 0.2, or so let's say 0.7. Okay, let's say 0.7. If we get an index of 0.7, it means that for one of the groups, we need to relocate 70% of them to achieve evenness in the entire KNUST community. Okay, so think about it. If it's 0 and if it's 1, what would it mean? Okay, so we said that the value you are supposed to get should be converted to percentages. So if you have 0.1, that is the same as 10%. So it means that 10% of one group should be relocated to a different group, to a different area to achieve evenness or uniform distribution amongst the two groups. Okay, so if it's 1, it means that the entire group for one particular group should be relocated to a different area. Okay, and if it's 0, it means that none of the groups should be, or yeah, none of the groups should be relocated. So let's say we are analyzing segregation between Christians and Muslims, and a dissimilarity index of 0.7, which is 70% of either Muslims or Christians, would have to be moved in order to create a uniform distribution between the two groups. Let's solve an example. So the following table shows the spatial distribution of Ghanaian and non-Ghanaian residents across the 10 regions in Ghana as at 2010. So here our two mutually exclusive groups will be Ghanaians and non-Ghanaians. Okay, we are trying to check if there is evenness between these two groups across the whole of Ghana. Okay, so we are supposed to analyze the degree of segregation between the two groups using the dissimilarity index, and we should interpret the results we get. Okay, so put this table in mind. Okay, so now putting everything into the formula we have here, we need to calculate AI over A for each of the regions. So since we have AI, so it means we have to do it from 1 to the last sub area we have. Okay, in this case we have 10 sub areas. So it means you have A1, A2 up to A10. Same for BI. Okay, so we have B1, B2 up to B10. Okay, so per the formula, we have to find AI over E. So what we have to do is we take the value for the first sub area and divide by the entire total. That's how come we come by this value. Okay, so if you take 23,328,501 divided by this 24 million we have here, we will have this value here. You do the same thing for each of the sub areas we have here. So each sub area's population divided by the total population. All right. When you are done, you do the same thing for non-Ghanaians. So that will be the population of non-Ghanaians over the entire population of non-Ghanaians in the whole of Ghana. Okay, so this is just for Western region, and the total here is for the whole of Ghana. So you take the population of that particular sub area and divide it by the total population of all the areas combined. Right? You do that for A and you do that for B. When you are done, you take the difference. These two bars we are seeing here means absolute. So it means even if we take the difference and we are getting a negative number, the number will still be positive. Okay, the number will still be positive. Let me give an example. We have 0.1618 here and we have 0.1951 here. If we take this difference, we are going to get negative, but the value here is still positive. So the absolute here means that regardless of the difference you get or the sign in front of the difference you get, it should still be the positive answer. Okay, when you are done, you sum all the values you have here and divide by 2 to end up with your index of dissimilarity, right? So if you go through each of the calculations, you arrive at this answer. We multiply that by half or we divide by 2 and we arrive at 0.075. Converting that to percentages, we would have 7.5%. Okay, so it means that 7.5% of one of these groups, be it Ghanaians or non-Ghanaians, should be relocated in order to achieve evenness in the entire or the whole of Ghana. Okay, so that's how to solve this question and how to interpret it.